How did this massive fish end up in a Texas lake?
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Central Texas is finally seeing beneficial rain. The region has been plagued by years of drought, so it really needs the water. But in some places, the rain is simply falling too fast, and that means flooding. Officials from Austin to San Antonio are carefully watching rivers and lakes. Most are rising and flowing, but they are preparing for the possibility of some serious flooding. We have two reports this morning, starting with meteorologist Joe DiCarlo in Kerrville.
There was just water all over the place, man. It's just with the hills, you know, the water's just rolling down. And
for residents in the hill country, it's been a long time coming to finally see a beneficial rain. Years of drought have plagued our area, and rivers and lakes have taken the hardest hits. But today it was all smiles as a deluge of rainfall has hit in the past 2 days.
it's definitely good to see some water flowing in the river again. We need it.
Here along the banks of the Guadalupe River, just south of Kerrville, you can see the river is flowing. Behind me, this is supposed to be a road, but the bridge is completely washed away right now as the Guadalupe continues to just spread all of its water down to the south. All of this water heading towards Canyon Lake.
This water won't completely fill Canyon Lake or any lake in our region hurting for water, but it should rise a little and hopefully start a momentum that we can build off of in the months ahead.
Yeah, I want it to rain more. Yes, the rain is good.
Water rushes beneath this small bridge along County Road 307 in Llano County, nearly meeting the bridge's height, a sign of the heavy rains hitting the area.
And I hope nobody, no houses come down, no one ends up underwater.
Nick George is one of the managers of Wake Point Properties in Kingsland. He's hopeful the rains won't cause any issues to the docks outside the property and restaurant.
I think they'll be flood. I don't think they'll be downstream at the end of it, no. Fingers crossed, knock on wood.
25 minutes northwest.
It's either drought or flood. So we are kind of used to this type of activity.
The heavy rains over Llano is something Mayor Marion Bishop says they've been preparing for.
Preparations are trying to close off low water crossings and so forth within the city and in the surrounding areas of the county to make sure we don't have anybody drowning.
Officials are hoping to avoid history repeating itself.
Oh my God, Excelsior, the bridge collapsed.
In 2018, the FM 2900 bridge collapsed in Llano County due to severe flooding of the Llano River. Lessons were learned that day, and with water levels expected to rise and cause flooding overnight, there will be boat rescue teams on standby, along with road closures and barriers set up.
We have crews ready to take care of whatever needs we have.
Evacuation orders and warnings are now in place in Northern California as crews there battle a large wildfire. Lightning sparked 3 separate wildfires, which have now merged into one thanks to very strong winds. It's called the Gold Complex Fire. It's burning the Plumas National Forest, which is northwest of Fresno. So far, more than 2,300 acres have burned with no containment. Anthony Ramos has more.
Officials are making progress to fight the Golden Complex Fire, now consisting of the 3 merged mill fires as well as the Smith Fire. Now, firefighters have their work cut out for them as crews are working against the heat, wind, and the potential for more stormy weather. Several teams and units are working to fight the flames using heavy equipment and air attacks. The Gold Complex Fire started on Monday from 4 different dry lightning strikes. The Mill, Mill 2, and Mill 3 fires have merged into one, and the Smith Fire hasn't grown since Monday. Forest officials say firefighters have made good progress on the north side of the fire, burning near Portola, which is a priority due to the amount of homes that are at risk. Evacuation orders and warnings are in place and could change depending on the fire's growth and containment. The same goes for the closures in the area, including the national forest lands, roads, and trails within the Gold Complex Fire footprint.
In Washington state, firefighters are trying to contain multiple large wildfires in the Cascades, one of which is burning just miles from a community. The Pioneer Fire, that's the one we're talking about here, is now more than 30,000 acres. As Paul Rivera explains, many people are worried because the region is extremely dry and also vulnerable.
These photos show it all. It's a race from the U.S. Forest Service and other agencies to contain multiple wildfires in the North Cascades. The Pioneer Fire is big, 30,000 plus acres burning on the shore of Lake Chelan, nearing the town of Stehekin.
They're doing what they can to slow it down.
Ryan Moody with the Chelan County Sheriff's Office told us about the small community, about 4 to 5 miles near the fire, only accessible by boat, and on foot, they're getting people there ready. To the west is the Easy Fire, several hundred acres large, which was started by lightning, and a portion of North Cascades Highway is now closed.
The wildfire has gotten very close to the highway, and because of the steep terrain there can be rolling rocks, falling trees, and just fire itself.
Lauren DeRocher is with the U.S. Forest Service. She said the North Cascades are in a tough spot.
It's extremely dry. There's a lot of wildfire activity happening.
Darrington resident Jeff Johnson said the other concern will be having fresh air to breathe.
I think we're going to have a long year with spring coming as early as it did, and literally we've had 80-degree weather for 3 weeks already. So it's going to be a long season.
A raging wildfire in Canada has forced the closure of Jasper National Park, located in the Alberta province. Jasper is one of Canada's most popular parks, bringing in over 2 million visitors last year. Dry and breezy conditions are expected before a chance of showers arrives on Thursday. That may actually help firefighters knock out some of those flames. At least 170 wildfires are tearing through the province of Alberta. Smoke from the wildfires in Canada and the U.S. is actually visible on a satellite. You can see it here. The time lapse from NOAA's GOES satellite shows the grayish brown smoke lingering over the states in the Northwest. The air quality in portions of Oregon and also Idaho is expected to be unhealthy today. And video has gone viral of a whale capsizing a boat off the coast of New Hampshire right here Tuesday morning. Remarkably, the men who were on board on that boat are not hurt. Anna Kuhn spoke with the teens who captured this incredibly rare event and found out this may not be the first incident with a boat for this whale.
A breaching whale capsized this boat off the coast of Rye, New Hampshire early this morning.
There was a whale like half a mile away we saw, and then it slowly came on over, and then it was like breaching around us a little bit, and then it breached right in front of us on that boat, which everyone's seen the video now.
The video has gone viral, and so have Colin and Wyatt Yeager. The brothers have become an overnight sensation, fielding interviews from media outlets all over the country.
I've seen some whales pretty close, but never breaching.
The boys quickly sprang into action, plucking the men who had jumped off the boat out of the water, and incredibly, they weren't hurt.
They were in shock. They were a little bit cold. They, didn't really know what to make of it, but they were in good spirits. They were kind of laughing.
And as rare a sight as this is, it may not be the first time for this whale. Alice Kennedy was in the same area on Sunday when a breaching whale bumped into the boat that she was on.
I got that on video, though! To have it be kind of one of my first real, fishing trips, to then have us basically almost catch the big one.
And while all three boaters say this won't stop them from getting back out on the water, they have learned some lessons, like always wear your life jacket. And
if I see whales, I'm definitely going to keep my distance from now on.
And a large explosion sent people running for safety at Yellowstone National Park. It happened at a thermal pool yesterday. No injuries have been reported. However, a boardwalk nearby was damaged. Officials say the explosion was caused by a hydrothermal explosion. And we broke another heat record according to preliminary data. Sunday was the hottest day in recorded history. The old record was set last year. This comes on the heels of 13 straight record-setting months of heat. Scientists blame the rising heat on climate change from burning fossil fuels as well as El Nino in the Pacific, which has since ended. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we look at why we could see storms form in the tropics in the coming weeks.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have a little disturbance moving through portions of southern New England during the course of the day today. This is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There we have our greatest chance for some steady rain. Elsewhere, some showers, maybe some rumbles of thunder should be expected in New York. There we will be warmest. These temps leave a lot to be desired through portions of New England. There we'll stay in the 60s and low 70s. There's a chance for a shower or thunderstorm with a front on Thursday. After that, full sunshine returns with seasonable temperatures. We're back in the 80s.
I'm meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. There is the chance for a few stray showers for the morning. Then into the afternoon, we'll have more scattered showers and storms. There could be some spots of moderate, even heavy rain at times, all as this low pressure system moves over the region. Once we make our way into the night, the showers start to taper, but the rain does return for Thursday. Temperatures this afternoon will reach the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Then overnight, we'll cool to the 60s and 70s.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. Here's a look at your highs for this afternoon. We can see exactly where that front and where the most rain is going to be today because we see a noticeable difference in those high temperatures. Low 80s there, looks like upper 80s, low 90s everywhere else. And like I mentioned, there's that rain rolling throughout your Wednesday. We will see increased rain as well in the Florida Peninsula, but some drier air is going to cause those rain chances to decrease just a little bit. Hour by hour, it looks like everyone's going to see at least a little bit of rain.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
After lightning sparked massive wildfires in Northern California Monday night, viewers not only shared photos of the smoke, but also of the unique sky. That's a thunderstorm with a rain shaft, and those shadows are from the sun behind the clouds. And in Texas, a relatively rare phenomenon called cloud iridescence. A so-called hat of ice crystals refracts sunlight into the individual color components.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
The tropics have been quiet for the past few weeks, in large part due to the Sahara dust in the region, but that could change in the coming weeks. One reason, something called the Madden-Julian oscillation. Meteorologist Michael Inrenberg explains what it is.
Now, this is an eastward moving progression of large regions of both enhanced or rising air and suppressed tropical rainfall. That will be sinking air. Typically, this pattern takes about 30 to 60 days to move across the globe. Right now, across much of the Atlantic basin, we have a suppressed phase with sinking air out there. That's why we're really not being able to get any storms or tropical waves going out there. Now, in the Pacific, there's an enhanced phase going on. We've had some tropical activity with a lot of rising air. Eventually, this enhanced phase will move on off towards the east into the Atlantic basin. It might take a couple more weeks, sometime in August, that will happen. Now, we're also seeing the beginnings of La Nina, that much advertised cooler Pacific water out there, cooler than average water temperatures out in the eastern Pacific. We also have still the above average water temperatures in the tropical Atlantic. Now, remember, La Nina usually leads to less wind shear in the Atlantic basin, which is favorable for more storms to develop. So in the meantime, while things are quiet, you can create that hurricane kit, know your evacuation routes, perform an insurance checkup, and consider flood insurance.
Well, 3 earthquakes hit West Texas on Monday, and the U.S. Geological Survey says all 3 are linked to local oil and gas production. The largest quake was 4.9 magnitude, which ties for the 8th strongest in Texas state history. It was near Snyder, about 80 miles from Lubbock. People who lived there were surprised to feel it.
I was a little scared, guys. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I'm gonna sit here and act tough and stuff like that. I was scared, man. So anything you do with the earthquake, you got to kind of watch out because you don't know what's going to happen with the ground underneath you.
This time, all we're hearing is it rumbled the house, shook the bed, shook the chairs, is the main thing we're hearing. All the way from the Dallas-Fort Worth area down to San Angelo, over to Midland, Odessa, and back up to Lubbock area.
And so far, there are no reports of any significant damage or injuries. In Ohio, they are finally seeing some much needed rain this week. However, yards in the area are still struggling. Meteorologist Sarah Converse spoke with an expert about how the drought is impacting lawns and also businesses in the state.
The state of Ohio continues to struggle with abnormally dry conditions. Some areas, including central and southeast Ohio, are dealing with moderate to severe drought. Co-owner of Lawn Doctor of Greater Columbus, Scott Cooper, says the drought is impacting his business.
Significantly. We're dealing with a period within the last 6 weeks of minimal rain. Lawns are very stressed out.
Scott tells us the stress on lawns is happening earlier than normal, which is creating a complex situation for their technicians.
We went through all the challenges for the technicians to assess what's going on. And there's all those things I mentioned. There's insects, there's drought, there's heat stress, there's fungus, and there's just so many variables that it's best to determine what's going on before you just, first of all, throw a bunch of money at it and then invest your time.
To find the root of the problem with your yard, Scott does certain tests like using a soil probe.
I put it in the ground and I pull up a sample and I look at the composition of the soil and I look for a thatch layer. I can also look at water, the moisture content in there to determine if more watering is needed or if it's been watered too much.
Scott says to have patience during this difficult time as the lawns usually rebound later in the season.
The battle against invasive species is something just about every lake association in northern Michigan is dealing with. But one of the most popular, famous, and beautiful lakes in the area is dealing with something kind of unique and doing so in a rather unique way. Mark Scalet explains.
You have to be proactive.
Yeah.
Proactive means getting ahead of what's discovered, and the Glen Lake Association has done that with something you might not expect.
We've discovered there is an invasive species called koi. It's the Japanese word for carp. It's an invasive species that we are trying to eliminate just as we would any invasive plant.
Commonly bought for small decorative ponds or aquariums, sometimes they just get too big and owners dump them in lakes. Sometimes they end up out there by more natural methods. But they outcompete the native species, eventually straining the ecosystem.
It's a precious resource, and anyone who's concerned about the environment would want to protect Glen Lake.
Protection came by population reduction in a unique way.
Well, we've harvested 4 with a bow fishing team. We had one that was 24 and a half pounds.
24 and a half pounds, a potential bow fishing world record.
That's a big carp.
With the potential of producing more than 1 million eggs each spawn.
We're going to conduct some more bow fishing hunts next spring.
It's sea turtle nesting season, and that means they are laying eggs along the beaches from the Carolinas to Florida. Female turtles lay eggs in more than one nest during the season, and researchers are working to track just how many of those eggs they actually lay. Meteorologist Cheriston Clark has more.
This is Therese, a 216-pound, almost 3-foot-long female loggerhead. When she made her first nest of the season in April, researchers tagged her so they could track her.
She's part of a study that's looking at something called clutch frequency. So we're interested in knowing how many nests the sea turtle lays in one breeding season.
Through tracking, they found she's already laid 6 nests in Florida. They're among the more than 150 nests laid every night and tracked by the Loggerhead Marine Life Center. Pretty typical for the heart of the season.
We're kind of still in the thick of things, but the early girls are kind of wrapping up and heading back.
Just a few weeks ago, Therese was tracked off the Lowcountry coast. Now she's headed north. If you're curious how researchers get the tracking device to stay on the loggerhead's shell, it's something you can buy at the hardware store.
For the loggerheads, use a 2-part cool setting epoxy. So the epoxy is used they have that hard shell. So we kind of clean and prep that top shell area, and then we use that epoxy to kind of adhere the tag onto the turtle.
It's a 2-hour process that involves gathering data and taking samples, but they do it after it's nested.
That one animal is providing information for probably over 10 different projects that we have.
They tag between 7 to 10 every year.
Time now for a short break, but first we take flight over the Cincinnati Nature Center.
Well, a very good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. Take a look at your next weather maker. Look at all the 90s we have out across the plains there. You look at the Midwest, though, in the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, you got some 70s and 80s and some scattered showers and thunderstorms. But as we continue into the day tomorrow, that rain slowly moving its way to the south and east, and most of the Midwest will be dry for your Thursday as things continue to just heat up as we head towards the end of the week. Look at all the 90s that we're getting into by the time that we get to Friday.
Good Wednesday morning to you. Meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast today across the region, tracking some showers and storms along the Gulf Coast and inland into northern portions of Louisiana. The afternoon, lots of sunshine for Abilene to Oklahoma City. Highs, though, easy to take, low to mid 90s. Meantime, showers and storms, southern portions of the region, much cooler temperatures in the 80s in late July. And we'll see more of this Thursday. The rain chance from Little Rock to Houston, maybe around San Antonio. Look at those cooler high temperatures.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Wednesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, we're finally cooling off a little bit in the PNW, at least closer to the ocean. Just mid-70s today around the Emerald City and a comfortable 81 out of Portland. 70s along LA and San Diego's coastline, but you head inland, it's much hotter than that. Monsoonal moisture blowing up over the Four Corners region and into Nevada later today, too. And that's the scene from here.
Tornado warning systems make residents aware of severe weather. Meteorologist Kate Alexander looks back at a series of deadly tornadoes that hit Tennessee and what updates were made to the warning system.
On the night of April 27th, 2011, a total of 11 tornadoes touched down in northeast Tennessee and southwest Virginia. 4 of those tornadoes were deadly. 14 people lost their lives. One of the worst tornadoes was an EF3 that touched down in Glade Spring, Virginia, with winds of more than 135 miles per hour. In response to severe weather, Glade Spring has recently installed a new solar-powered warning system. Glade Spring Fire Department Assistant Chief Ricky Stumbo says the new system has the capability of warning residents of various emergency situations.
So if there's any tornado warnings, it'll immediately activate and notify on its own. We do not have to be here to do anything with that system.
Some of the benefits of the new solar system include reliable 24/7 power and low maintenance. In addition to the siren, the public address speakers will automatically and audibly give details of the warning to let residents know what is going on.
And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Wednesday, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.